Hello again, everybody. This lesson we're going to talk about the different types of angle pairs, and there are four that I want to talk about. First, we're going to figure out angles that are adjacent, angles that are vertical, angles that are known as a complementary pair, and angles that are known as a supplementary pair. These are all pairs of angles. Alright, adjacent angles. Let's talk about adjacent here. Adjacent angles are two angles that share a side. So let's say we have these two angles here in green. Angle A, we would say, is adjacent to angle B. They share a side. They are right next to each other. Talk about vertical angles next. Vertical angles are formed from two intersecting lines. So we could say from those, there's actually two pairs of angles here. Say angles C and D. Angles C and D are vertical to each other, but also angles E and F. Vertical angles are opposite of each other, and their angles are always the same. Brings us to complementary angles. Complementary, whenever you see the word complementary, I want you just to think of 90 degrees. Alright, I didn't draw it exactly, but let's say this angle was 30 degrees. This angle was 60 degrees. 60 plus 30 makes 90. Those angles are, in fact, complementary. And then finally, we have supplementary. So whenever you see the word supplementary, I want you to think 180 degrees. Let's say this angle measure here was 170. Then if these are supplementary angles, this angle right here would have to be 10 degrees. So adjacent, right next to, vertical, opposite of each other, equal in measure, formed from intersecting lines. Complementary adds up to 90. Supplementary adds up to 180 degrees. Let's look at a few examples here. The relationship between angles 1 and 2. Well, those two angles are right next to each other, so we could say they are adjacent. We could also say they are supplementary. They add up to 180. And in this special case, we would call this pair of angles a linear pair. They're linear because they're formed from one line and another line coming off of them. This line right here, the two angles are formed from coming off of this line right here. Adjacent, right next to each other. Supplementary, they add up to 180. Linear pair, they're formed from the same line. Let's look at the angles 1 and 2 here. A couple ways to describe them. If you notice, they're right on the other side of a 90-degree angle. First of all, they are adjacent. And since they add up to 90 degrees, we would say they are complementary. Adjacent and complementary. Looking at these two, notice they are formed from two intersecting lines. And we would say, because of that, they are vertical. Vertical angles. They're formed from two intersecting lines. They are sort of opposite of each other, and they would have the same measure angles. They would be equal in measure. Alright, several things going on here. The relationship between angle X and angle 157. We can say several things. They are adjacent. They are a linear pair. That makes them supplementary, formed from that same line. And if we wanted to, we could solve for x and find it to be 23 degrees, because 23 plus 157 adds up to 180. Then finally, let's say we have two angles. ABC is 98, DEF is 82. Well, what can we say? Are they complementary, supplementary, or neither? We would have to add up 98 and 82, and upon adding those up, you see they equal 180 degrees. Therefore, we say B, the angles are supplementary. Thank you for watching. I hope this helps you understand the different types of pairs of angles.